Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You've hit the spot. The place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Put your thinking caps on, because the conversation starts now. Okay, great. So I want to gather a little space with you, a little energy. I want to take a few deep breaths, make sure that we are in alignment, to make sure that our spirits are good, that our message is clear, is concise, that this brings prosperity to Akyiaa and the work that she does. Let it land upon the ears that need to hear this, inside the hearts that need to feel it, and upon the hands that need to hold it. I feel like I got a big old virtual hug from you right then. How about that?
That's great. That is awesome.
Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You are at the spot with me and Akyiaa Azula. This is the spot where the conversation is pointed and the guests are sharp and the responses are never dull. Ooh, you are in for a good one today. She's calling in from Georgia, and I absolutely love Georgia, even though I've never been there, but I can't wait to get one of them sweet peaches and just the culture there. It's really cosmopolitan, but also has that country vibe. But, you know, she's a transplant. She's moved there from, she's been able to travel different places. We're going to talk about her work as an acupuncturist. Have you ever had acupuncture brains? You better get them little needles stuck in you. It's amazing. We're going to talk about restorative, but we're also going to talk about just pain relief, but also psychological relief, because acupuncture can clear your mind of a lot of discomfort. She is a person that has developed a program called Creation. We're going to talk to her about that. And brains, she's going to tell us a little story about how somebody put some voodoo on her. What? Y'all think that is a joke. I've had another person on there, but let me tell you, the devil is a liar. And if you are in your spirit, and if you are aware of situations, people's places, and things, he can't touch you. He can't touch you. So let's welcome her to the edge. Azula. I'm sorry, I said your name backwards. Akyiaa Azula.
Yes, and that is my Instagram handle, Azula Creation. That is the company that I work with, that I started with my daughter. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's go. I'm ready.
So tell us, number one, what planet are you from, and how do you show up in the world?
What planet? I've never thought of a planet. I could tell you where I was born. I was born in Jamaica, West Indies, New York City, Brooklyn to be specific. And, lived in Miami, North Carolina, now Florida, Orlando. Now I'm here in Georgia, in Atlanta. So I've been around pretty much up and down the Eastern Seaboard.
What's been one of your most favorite places that you've lived in?
I liked Miami a lot. I was there in the 90s. I lived there for about 3 years. It was, it felt like home, being from the Caribbean. It has a very Caribbean vibe to it. So I really did enjoy that. Like New York when I was a kid, but going back with the housing prices now, there's it doesn't feel the same.
And the rat infestation. Girl, my girlfriend was there. She was telling me that she said they at the fine restaurant, rats come running across their feet. She said them rats as big as cats.
They big. They like this, and they running across the subway, taking the train. Like the rats own it now. People can't live there; they can't afford it. But the rats are like, people are leaving. We've got.
Wow. But you know what? Life is a rat race.
It is.
It is. And so they are just, they just doing what they would naturally do, because people are always trying to trick you up, stumble you up, confuse you, put you in this maze.
Yeah.
You create clarity and start with Creations.
Okay. So Creation is a system that came to me. I've for over 40 years, I've been in the space of alternative and natural healing. Initially, I started out with acupuncture. While I was in school, one of my classmates, it turned out that she's what today we would say a medical medium or a medical intuitive. She was a physician assistant student. She on her last semester, she had what they call a spiritual calling happen, where she looked like she was having a nervous breakdown in
Mm.
school. So they thought she was on drugs or something, because she was, it was a very intense program she was in, and a lot of people were taking drugs just to stay awake, doctors and doing all night long residencies, that type of stuff. And they took her to Bellevue, which is,
Oh, wow.
yeah, that's called, I don't know how culturally or politically correct, but back in the day we called it the nut house, right?
Yeah,
But
and
that's what we call Bellevue.
5150. The address is 5150.
Yeah, exactly. So they took her there, but like you say, God is really good.
Yes, he is.
The psychiatrist that was assigned to her was this Jewish woman who had just did her postdoctoral work in Africa. And that woman looked at her and she explained all the things she was experiencing, all the things she was seeing. And she says, no, you're not hallucinating. You're not having a mental breakdown. It sounds like what you're going through is a spiritual calling. Says, when I was in Africa, I witnessed a lot of the people that became shamans and the healers of the villages. They went through that before they were able to communicate spiritually and heal people on that level. So she was from Trinidad, and the psychiatrist said, you need to go back to your country and find someone that could initiate you into these old traditions and these old ways. And she went back, she found someone. They did a process called mourning, which is very similar to what the Native Americans do when they call vision quest, where you spend a number of days in fasting and prayer, and there's a group around you and they watch over you and you go on these spiritual journeys. So she did that.
But sometimes with those, they give you a little ayahuasca too.
Yeah, this was nothing. It was just you're fasting the whole time.
Yeah, and you know what, Brains, if you've never fasted, that is another psychological trip within itself. When the body is deprived of food, you become very clear, very quick.
Yes,
No?
that is true. So they put them through this process. And after she did that, she came back and she was more grounded and she was able to do things spiritually. I mean, we were doing stuff. I was about 19 or 20 at the time, because we were in acupuncture college. We were friends. She was like in her 30s. She had a few kids. And anytime she had a case to work, someone would come to her because they were having some spiritual issues. I would go with her and help her. So I started to learn both sides of it, both the Eastern medicine side through acupuncture and also the spiritual side, because, it just happened that we were together. I was doing acupuncture, she was a classmate, and that just came together like this. So I've been doing that now for about 40 years. I just turned 62.
Oh, look fabulous, honey.
Yeah. So it's been a long time that I've been doing this. So yeah.
So now you've reached this point. What has been some of the transformation and some of the benefits as far as healing that you've seen with the work that you do?
The benefits that I see with healing, I could definitely say this. I love acupuncture. It can, speed up healing, accelerate healing faster than any other medicine that's out there. I mean, I could get somebody out of pain within 3 seconds. So fast that they're looking around like, I can't believe I was hurting a minute ago. You put a needle in, I'm not hurting no more. How did you do some magic? Is something in the needle? And I say, no, it's a needle. It's like a pin. I just, where to put it, and their pain could go away instantaneously. The drawback that I found, that I could get them out of pain, but I couldn't get them to stay out of pain. So some people, they would feel great after their treatment. It could be a few days later, their pain would come back, and then we'll get to a point where we couldn't get them past a certain plateau. It's like they hit a wall. And so I started thinking there must be something else other than a block in their meridian system. I would give them herbal formulas. I'd actually make the formulas for them. I'd give them the formulas. They'll feel better with that, but the same thing, they'd hit a roadblock. So what I started doing, I started saying there's something else. So the first place I started looking, I didn't even look spiritually, even though I, had that background prior. The first place I started to look was the connection between the mind and the body and the emotions. And when I started doing that, my success rate with patients went from 85% success rate to about 95%. I started to find out, someone had this emotional trauma. and something triggered this emotional trauma. It could be anything, it could be a smell, somebody said something to them, but this emotional trauma might have happened to them 30, 40 years ago, but something triggered it, and immediately now their back starts to hurt and their pain. So just to give you an example, I had this young man who came to see me, and this is how like everything comes together and work. He came to see me because he had back pain, but in the middle of his back, and he was 25, and I'm like sitting there and I'm tuning into his energy, and what I'm getting is like he has this fear that his back will never ever get better. He'll have to suffer with this back pain for the rest of his life. So while I'm working with him, I'm trying to figure out, why is this young man so fearful? What I see, and as an intuitive, what I see when people come around me, I could see like things around them. So it looks like, the best way I could describe it, if you're looking at something on your computer and one of those pop-ups come up, but it's transparent, you can still see what you're looking at, but there's this pop-up there all of a sudden. It's similar to that. Like in people's energy field, things will just pop up. So I'm looking at this, and what I'm seeing is a man dressed in a Civil War uniform. He's on a horse, and the horse is rearing up. And I see a soldier that got stabbed by a bayonet and is laying on the ground, and the horse stomps on this soldier's back. And so while he's talking to me and telling me about his back pain, he told me he had a massage therapist that had magic hands. She could just touch him and he would just heal. He went back to her. She couldn't get that thing to heal. So someone referred him to me, because my reputation in Orlando was, if it's something that you can't figure out amongst all the practitioners, MDs, chiropractors, other acupuncturists, you can't figure it out, send them to Akyiaa. She's doing some other stuff. She's on some other level. And
she on some other level stuff. I get you.
Yeah, she's on that other level stuff.
Next level. I get you. But
yeah,
but again, you have to be open to different modalities, brains. This is minimally evasive. You know, well, I don't know.
Non-invasive. Very non-invasive.
Well, not when you're dealing with somebody's mind. When you're dealing with somebody's mind, you're dealing with their whole psyche. But what I'm saying, as far as even with the acupuncture, minimally evasive. If it hurts, whatever, they could just turn it a little bit. It's okay. And I like how you attested to the fact that it can only sometimes get people to a certain plateau.
Yeah.
I know that was happening with me, and my acupuncturist burned a little bit too much moxa. And I was not feeling good.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling good after that. And so, again, you have to know, you have to ask questions. Don't just let anybody work on you doing anything. That's including your hair, your nails, your teeth, whatever. If someone is working on you and there's a level of discomfort, you need to speak up for yourself, because they don't know what they don't know. And communication is key. Being able to see people's auras and energy. I can't see pop-ups, but I can see auras, and I have a lot of dreams. A lot of dreams. I had a talk with God, and I told him, you know what, could you dial back a little bit and give me this stuff in bite-sized pieces? Because I was becoming overwhelmed. And I felt like I had so much information, so much data that I had to process, that I had an obligation to get through it and do it right away. That's not necessarily the case.
No,
sometimes all this information is pieces to a larger puzzle.
It's correct. And
put it together, and then you have someone like you that will come in. You have a shaman, you have your minister, whatever, help you kind of edit and filter and sort it out and get it right.
Correct. And so when, like, if I get back to the case with that young man, I basically told him, I said, well, what I'm seeing is happening to you is that when you were in a past life, because he was showing me like a life that he previously lived. In this past life, you were a soldier and a horse stomped on your back, broke your back, and you died 3 days later. That's what he was showing me. What happened to him right before the horse stomped on his back, he had gotten into a car accident a couple of years before and injured his back. Hence, he had this magic hands massage therapist that he would go to. That wasn't helping him at the point. He went on a trip. I think he went to Toronto or someplace, he told me, and there was a piece of sheet metal sticking out of the side of the ground, and it cut him on the leg, and he needed to get like 8 stitches for it. And the back pain, that triggered his back pain. because somehow the cells in his body, the people don't realize when it comes to time and space and all of this, everything is connected.
Right.
It triggered in his body getting cut by this piece of sheet metal. It's triggered the whole incident, this whole cell memory of being stabbed by a bayonet and having this horse stomp on his back. And I'm saying that's probably why he had this great fear that his back would never get better. Because I'm thinking he's 25. You know, you're 25. Of course, your back's going to get better. You got a lot of life to live.
Mm.
So I went ahead, cleared the energy around what was going on with this vision that I'm seeing around him. And he was supposed to come back for a follow-up session. He never called, he never came back. I said, well, that must have really weirded him out, what I told him.
Right.
And about a couple of years later, at this meeting, and I meet this chiropractor. And, you know, we start talking, we're talking about maybe doing some cross referrals in our business. And then she said, now I know where I know your name. And she told me his name, and he had like this very beautiful Italian name. And I said, real big head full of curly hair. And she said, yeah, that's him. She said, he raves about you. He said he came to you and he said he never had back pain again after he saw you.
Wow.
That's how that stuff works. You know, normally things come up like that because people ask me about past lives. They ask me about all these things. And I said, it's only necessary if it's relevant. If it's not relevant, it's not going to come up for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you know, they want you to pull back the layers, the onions of their life, you know, and sometimes it's just not there. So let's fast forward to some things that happened to you. Girl, you done told me that somebody tried to put some trickery on you.
Yes.
What was that about? What happened? Okay. How did you realize it? And how did you block it and heal?
Okay. So it was a big shock to my system. My acupuncture business was going really well. I had a 5-year goal. My 5-year goal business-wise was to, you know, make $500,000. I figured that was doable at the time. And I remember putting that on my bedroom wall. You know how you put up your affirmations? So I remember putting that, you know, this is the name of my business in 5 years will bring in this amount. And I had it there. Within 3 years, I made that. And I was doing very well. I was doing so well that I opened up my own office. I was leasing from someone else at the time. I opened up my own place and I was doing so well. And as I called him Tef, the ex, he saw that I was doing well. He had aspirations to be a healer that I completely forgot about. He was studying herbology. He studied for about 4 years, but he just never had the courage or the ambition and that gumption to get up and just, you know, let me open up a herb shop. Let me, you know, do consultations with people. He didn't have that. I went to acupuncture school, opened up my practice. I'm doing well. And, you know, people would say he's doing stuff because he's jealous of you. And I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, we don't even do the same things. Why in the world would this man be jealous of me? But I had forgotten that he
I'm your partner. You know,
exactly.
What's mine is yours. What's mine. Yeah.
Correct. We have children, but you know, like sometimes people just can't get past the fact that you're doing something they want to do. So if I can't do it, you can't do it kind of energy. I think that's how it started. Plus, our marriage wasn't going very well. So, you know, we had children. The children were young. I said, instead of breaking up the family, it's like a decision that a lot of women make. Instead of breaking up the family and doing all of that, you know, I'll just put up with you. So, you know, we were basically married, but living separate lives. You know, I would just go about my business, do if there was something concerning the kids or the house, we'd talk. But other than that, we really didn't have any real connection with each other. So I guess on some level that must have bothered him too, of course.
Right.
So he just figured he was going to stop me. And this was his way of stopping me. And, you know, people say, well, Akyiaa, you're an intuitive. You can see all this stuff around people. How could somebody been doing this stuff to you and you didn't even know it? I said, well, the way he did it was a bit slick. He only did it when I slept. So he would attack me at night astrally while I was sleeping. So it was night after night after night of astral attack. Demons attacking. You know, sometimes my kids would come in my room because I am like yelling and screaming, but it sounds like I'm speaking some other language, like I'm talking in tongues. And I'm yelling because I see this thing, you know, approaching me and I'm yelling at it and all of this is going on. But I'm not putting 2 and 2 together. I'm just thinking, because I think the reason why I might have come across that naive is because I wouldn't do that to anybody. I wouldn't think that anybody around me would do that, because that's not something I would think to do. And I know there is a
Now let me
big
ask you,
karma.
what was his nationality? Where was he from?
He's American. I'm from Jamaica, but he's American. He's was born in New York. His family's from South Carolina, but he was born in New York City. Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking just, other cultures have a tendency to do that and
That's
seek that
that's
out.
that's the norm. Yeah.
Yeah, and seek that out. They're looking for witches or, people that deal in black magic to do
Mhm.
that. But for him to do that to you, and it fast forward it and tell us what ended up happening to you when you realized, and also, when he found out that you found out.
Yeah. Okay. So fast forward, um, working on my business creation, and the whole focus was just to get the business online, build a website for it. That's basically what I was in the process of doing. And for whatever reason, I could not, to save my life. Every time I would get in front of the computer, it was like I had an aversion. It was like, oh, I can't look at I couldn't even turn it on half the time. So I talked to a friend of mine. She's another intuitive, and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, I'm having a hard time getting this business, the website up for this business, and I can't figure out why I'm having such a difficult time. She's like, and she looks at it and she said, Akyiaa, it's your husband. And I'm like, no, it's something else. It must be some force in the universe that's trying to block me. And I'm thinking more grandiose. And she keeps saying, Akyiaa, I'm sorry to tell you, it's your husband. She had to tell me 5 times before I would even consider it.
Wow.
That's how much I was, and then I remember I was talking to one of my spiritual guides, and I said, how come I didn't realize all this time what was going on? And they say, because you are under a spell. That's what happens when you're put under a spell. You can't see it when you're under a spell. So I said, oh, I never thought of it that way. So she told me, I started looking at it, and I found that he had me and our 3 children, because those are his biological kids. He had us all 4 of us entombed in a cave. Because every time I would go to work on my business, I see this big, gigantic boulder stand in front of me, and I'm trying to figure out what's this big boulder. It was a rock that he had in front of the cave, and once I moved the rock, that's when I was able to see that, he had my kids like they were in crypts. I was locked in the cave, and I was like searching around in the darkness, trying to figure out how to get out of this thing. That's where he had us. So I was able to clear that up, and I got pissed. You talk about someone was pissed. So so I found this African preacher on YouTube, and it was like clear witchcraft and clear people doing things to you. And I love the way
You found him on the YouTube.
I found this African preacher on YouTube,
Love
and
it.
he was taught, but I love what he would say. He said, anybody performing witchcraft against me shall die.
Oh
Anybody
boy.
who reaches their hand shall die. And I love so I started blasting that. I got my daughter to get me a speaker. I started blasting that in the house. When he heard me playing that in the house, he was walking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like, someone's not used to being in church. They get antsy. He was walking back and forth, back and forth. The next day, I got up, and he never physically, like the spiritual attacks was never physical. It was just to put me to sleep, like I was anesthetized. As soon as I walk in the house, I get tired. You just feel heavy. You feel tired. I go to sleep, and that's when the attacks would happen. So, and I'm thinking, well, I just worked 16 hours. Of course, I'm tired. So I'm not thinking anything unusual this whole time. So then, after I found out it was him, and I'm playing "They Shall Die" in my house. He started to physically attack me now. So all of a sudden, my leg is swelling up. I'm having headaches. I can't move. I can't lift my arm. I mean, it was crazy. So, and as he was doing the physical attacks, he went from just put her to sleep to now the actual physical attacks. I was getting madder and madder and madder. And my guides came, because I was at the point where I couldn't get out of bed. My daughter had to help roll me over to get me up out of bed.
Oh no.
It was that bad. Yeah, it was really, really bad. And I'm taking spiritual baths and cleanses and doing
So
all.
how did you get away?
Um, when I found out what he was doing, he would do things to block my business, block my money, block any prosperity coming in. And when I cleared that, money just started coming in, and I was able to just move. because we were moving. I had money set aside, and then it was like I'd make a bunch of money, and then it would be like no money for like the well went dry. Then I'll make a bunch of money again. So what he would notice anytime I was making any moves, like I'd make a bunch of money, I'd go to California and do a course or something out there, come back, I bought a new automobile. Like anytime he saw me doing anything prosperous, it's like the money would just flow and then it'll stop. And I couldn't figure out why I was having that issue. Now that he's out of the picture, I'm not having that issue anymore. But once I cleared up all the stuff he was doing, he even had something that put a cap on how much money I could make. That was in my energy field. Like he had devices, demons, you name it, he had it there.
But you know
So
what? And like you said, he still has it because now he
yeah.
has to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And don't think that you're just able to cast out these things. These things live inside of you.
I had to get a lot of help. I had over a dozen people help me. I called them my earth angels, my own. I got very well acquainted with my spirit team, and what they were able to do. And it was through the help of my spirit team and my earth angel friends that, I would call and say, hey, this is what's going on with me. And they just knew what to do. So that's how I got out of it. And I was able to move, filed for divorce, and I don't have to be around that anymore. And I could definitely tell the difference. Even when I moved, it was a bit of exhaustion, like you've been in a
Right,
battle for a long time,
right.
PTSD, all of that. I was just exhausted after I moved. It's like now I'm starting to get my energy back.
Well, you were doing some amazing things. I also saw you on Facebook. You're doing a collaborative with some others in Zoom calls. Tell us a little bit about that.
Um, a lot of the collaborative that I'm doing with Zoom calls, people have heard of the work that I do with creation. And a lot of the Zoom calls, people bring me on and they want to know more about that. So I was actually doing a 9-week webinar called Creation for Manifesting Miracles. And we had some really wonderful things happen. We had one gentleman, he was making, he had these big projects that he had to do, which required millions and millions of dollars, and they kept getting stalled. And when we did the very, very first Zoom call, he texts me the next day and he says, I want to work with you because whatever you did, the money just became unblocked. I got a call from the people that have the money, the funders, and they are releasing the funds. So, and then he texted me again a couple of weeks later. First, it was 16 million. Then 10 million. He's texted me and I said, wait a minute, I thought it was 16. Is there 10? Is there a different amount? He said, oh yeah, that deal stalled 2 years ago and we couldn't get it to move. And now whatever you did, it's starting to move again. So he's got like 26 million. Just got approved for a really nice building up in Buckhead, a 20,000 square foot building. And the realtor was like, this is unheard of. We never hear of anybody doing a big commercial deal. And they agree on the spot. No counter offers, no negotiation, nothing. They just said yes to his offer. So she said, this is unheard of. So it's like stuff like that. Creation is about, what are you here to create? What are you here to do? What's your purpose? That's what creation is about. And then we find out, well, what's blocking you? And creation just removes it. We don't go into, you got to talk about it, journal it, reframe it. We don't do any of that. We just say, no, think of it this way. A lot of the stuff that's blocking you, that we go over and over in our minds about it. We have a saying in Chinese medicine that the only cause of internal disease is the emotions. And they don't mean emotions are bad, it's the holding on to the emotions. And that breaks down your organs, and that's what causes internal disease.
Mm.
So because, like a lot of people, they will go over and over all this stuff in their mind and talk about it all the time. And with creation, we say, no, it's garbage, it's trash, it's toxic to your body, it breaks your body down. So, think about it. If you had your garbage, instead of taking it out to the curb and letting sanitation come and take it away, instead you're dumping it out on your living room floor every time you want to reminisce, and you're sorting through it, you're categorizing it and doing all of that. We say, no, it's trash, get rid of it. So the approach with creation is like, no, we don't need to focus on that stuff. Just get rid of it because you've got bigger things to do with your life.
Who's your ideal client?
Distraction, huh?
Who's your ideal client? Because everyone's not going to be big enough to receive.
I think anybody that know that they're here to do something, know that they're stuck and they can't figure out what's getting them stuck. Because I have clients that are all races, all ages, male, female, you name it. I have clients, a diversity of clients. So there is not like a certain ethnicity or anything that really connects them. What connects them is that they have this desire. They know they're here to do something. They know they want to do something. They know they want to serve humanity on some level, but they know that they feel stuck inside. Something is blocking them. They can't get to what it is. So it's that commonality of that pain that really brings them together. So everybody that I work with, it's usually they're stuck somewhere in their life. That's the first thing. And then when I get them unstuck, then with creation, then the next thing we start saying, okay, who are you really? You know, like I would say, April, who are you? And what are you here to really do?
How much time you got? I got a laundry list. I can tell you who I am.
Yeah.
I write it down, I journal it, I change it, I edit, I filter. I'm about to have a board of directors meeting. I have a whiteboard and I put all the people that I really admire and idolize and, you know, their strategies and what they've done with their life. And I sit there and I talk to them like once a month, you know, I just, as if they are in the room, because again, if the mind can conceive it, you can achieve it. And you have to be able to tweak it. You know, everything is not going to go your way, brains. Everything is not going to be 100%. There's going to be a lot of stumbling blocks because we're here for two purposes, brains. One is to learn and the other one is to teach. And so you have to share this information and you also have to stay fine-tuned. You've got to try different modalities. If it doesn't work for you, I honor that. I'm not trying to make you do something you don't want to do. But you know what? The thing of it is you don't know what you don't know either. And there's a lot of things out there that have been programmed into us from our religious doctrine that has been a interpretation of what that individual's life was, what that individual's experience was, what that individual's relationship is with God, and then they disseminate it down to us. That is not our journey. That is not our message. That is not our life. That is not our experience. So you have to have the I am conversation of I am this person. I am willing to do this. I am willing to change. I am open to. Girl, don't get me to preaching here on the show because I will tell you the truth.
Hallelujah.
Okay, folks, you know, folks get straight and watch your circle of influence. You know, when people will try to do stuff to you, and you have to have the ability to have discernment, to pump the brakes and say, is this person really in my best interest? What is their underlying intention? What is their message? Okay, there's a reason and there's a season. And I believe that was brought to me to heighten my sense of awareness of my circle of influence. I'm talking about the totality. Everybody that has a seat in my auditorium. Okay, everybody's not going to be on the first row. There's not even going to be folks in the balcony. You're going to be outside looking in because it's dangerous. And if nothing else, if what they're trying to do to you doesn't manifest, what it does to your mind and your psyche and the element of fear, you know, that will make you do things to yourself. That will create self-sabotage. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, what you're talking about the pictures, that was one of the things that I found. He had looked like he had a dossier of pictures of me, my family, like relatives he's never met, deceased relatives, all that. He had all my pictures in this envelope. And it's interesting because people say to me, didn't you feel fearful about all this stuff? I said, no, I was more angry than anything else. I was just mad that somebody would, it's like a more, how dare you type of energy. It was more indignation that I felt more than, it wasn't fear at all. I was just, you know, heck, I mean, I was seriously upset about the whole thing. So I don't get fearful about those things. You know, like I said, it has brought me into another sense of awareness that you wonder why people do certain things.
Right.
That, you
or
know,
people will try to trick you up. That's like, even like, you know, I was, you know, I'm really into meditation, but someone wanted to do some hypnosis. And then after the session, she goes, you know, I noticed that you didn't go completely under. And I said, I didn't. I said, because you are going to do some neuro-linguistic programming. Now, you can't make me walk like a duck and you can't make me bark like a dog. I get that. There's nothing you can do under hypnosis, that's going to alter really who you are. But the
Correct.
suggestions that you plant, the
Mm-hmm.
conversations that we're having, you're not talking to my frontal lobe. Okay, you're talking about something here. You're talking about the GPS. Okay, you're talking about how it navigates. So I always watch that. I don't go 100%. Even when I meet people, in all honesty, brains, I know y'all think I'm the coolest person on the planet, and I am. But when I meet you, we don't start with 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give you 100. You don't give me 100. That's fine. We're going to work towards that. We're going to build. That's what's called building a relationship. These people on social media, you want to be very careful. They're not your friends. Don't get it twisted. They've never seen you, never had a cup of coffee with you. All they know is the information that you put out there. Be careful
Correct.
about what you put out there. Be careful about the comments that you make. Be careful about the associations that you make. There's a lot of trickery out there, and it can be to your detriment. But there can be beautiful things like the one that I found in Akyiaa. I want to thank you so much for being here with me and my brains and sharing, some of very intimate, deep, dark things, but also shining a bright light as far as your healing and your program. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you and work with you when it comes to creations.
Okay, so I am focused on people finding out why people won't fulfill their purpose. I meet some of the most talented, most skilled people you ever want to meet, and they'll do everything but those things. And I know that's their purpose, why they're here, put here on this planet. So I started doing a course which will be coming up soon. So that's my Instagram, Azula Creation. So people could reach me there. They could also reach me at Akyiaa, Akyiaa, Azula on Facebook and also on YouTube. They could see me on any of those platforms. And I will have brains. I will have a course called Creation for Money and Purpose, which goes into why you won't fulfill your purpose. And the big fear is a lot of times people are afraid that people don't understand their purpose. They don't know how to communicate it to people, especially if they're thinking about, doing their purpose in a way that they will make money, like actually profiting from their purpose. People are very fearful of that and they won't go forward with it. So the
They have
course that
money blocks. Yeah, they
about
have
that,
money blocks.
they
And you
have a lot
have
of
to
money.
understand, brains, is money is energy. And again, it is all that conversation that somebody has already pre-programmed in your head. You're not good enough, you're not worthy, you can't make it, you're selfish, you're this, you're that, yada yada. No, you are smart, you are intelligent, you are deserving. You will pay it forward. Money is energy. You will create prosperity. And you will coach and mentor others. Thank you so much for being here, sister. I love you so much. I'm so glad. Maybe next time you'll come to California and start heading down this way on vacation. Yes. But continue to do the work that you do and educate and elevate the next generation. Bye, brains.
Bye.
Oh, don't forget to subscribe.